What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you hear when you're speaking with advisors about the RIA space?
This advisor versus business owner conundrum. Running an RIA or any business for that matter takes a lot of time and attention. So this question of trade-offs comes up, and it's a trade-off of growth, profits, time, and that conundrum is becoming more and more real for advisors in an increasingly and changing environment. These are big decisions, right? Whenever somebody is moving their business, it's their livelihood, and quite frankly, it's becoming an increasingly valuable asset. Thinking about going RIA, while I see it clearly, and it's a non-negotiable, why wouldn't you do it? I would really encourage advisors to definitely take a long-term outlook on that. And don't think of the short term, whether it's you're running away from something, whether there's some dollars that are being put in front of you, but truly think long term, and make sure there's a real clear thesis for why to go this route. But I think one of the key features of the RIA industry is that you're really untethering yourself from the world of a broker-dealer that is kind of limiting some of your potential and the possibilities. And so I think that's where some of the biggest misnomers are found, because when you enter into the RIA space, you have so much choice available to you. There are now newfound ways to build clients and to work with clients. You are not subject to broker-dealer rules and product fees type kind of restrictions. And so some of that freedom that gets unleashed with an advisor who goes into the RIA space is simply unmatched. You almost want to count it as lost opportunities,
Sure.
if you will.
A lot of people that are taking a look at the RIA space right now, they're saying, hey, I am more than willing to give up a small amount of my payout to not worry about compliance, to not worry about tech stack, to not worry about billing and some of these things. And then there's people on the other side that say, hey, I want to pick my custodian, my chassis, and then I want to add every single aftermarket part on there that I can, everything kind of off of that Michael Kitces technology chart, and I want to control every single piece of the process. There's not a right or wrong answer by any means, but it's a conversation that's coming up quite a bit. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today. It's no secret the RIA space has been picking up space over the last 10 years, but especially the last few years. Regardless of the success of the space, the RIA world is still a very alien and uncomfortable conversation to a lot of financial advisors. What does an RIA mean? I still have brokerage business. I can't go RIA. There's still a lot of misconceptions out there that I hear from a recruiter as a recruiter on a regular basis, regardless of how much information is out there. So I wanted to bring on Aaron Jasper today. He's the CEO of Mutual Group, and regardless of which way a financial advisor wants to start an RIA or join an RIA, they have a great solution for. So he's been in the business for 20 years in the RIA space and is just someone that can be really unbiased to kind of educate and weigh the pros and cons of kind of the different options. So Aaron, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully I can help your audience just get a little bit more clear on some of those questions that you're raising and that confusion that's out there for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know you have tons of experience. You've been in the business, RIA business for a long time. Do you want to talk about your tenure and your expertise in the RIA space real quick before we get started?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just briefly, I've been the CEO of Mutual Group for the last 10 years. And prior to that, I actually spent just shy of 10 years at Fidelity Investments. I primarily worked actually in the clearing business, which they call and which is known as National Financial Services, although had during my time, gotten a lot of exposure to these early kind of RIA platform companies that were forming to cater to to the breakaway wirehouse market, and it began to give me some exposure to what was going on in this industry and where might the future be heading. So I too took a plunge and ultimately was privileged to join this firm, Mutual Group, and assume the role of CEO from one of the partners here who was seeking a successor in the business. And we've had a great run, and I'm really looking forward to what's ahead for the next 10 years because there's a lot of exciting things happening.
For sure. Yeah, I'd love for you to dive into some of those, and I'll give some of, things that I've been seeing as well. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing out there in this ever-changing landscape that's the RIA space?
Yeah, there's four things that I would say I'm seeing right now. I'd kind of categorize them, two macro and then maybe two micro. No question, outside capital has completely transformed this business and industry over the last 5 years. It's changed the industry economics. It's changed, from salaries of how people are paid and how much they're paid to, how recruiting it works. To certainly firm valuations and all of this M&A activity that you're probably or people have probably heard about.
Sure.
It's changed the industry ecosystem. You know, Lots of us have forgotten that commissions were dropped by Schwab, then TD, and then Fidelity only a couple years ago, and that's changed even how the custodial landscape works today. And then that outside capital, though, has also brought with it just an incredible amount of entrepreneurial enthusiasm, which is pretty exciting. AI is another big trend, of course, but it's not just relegated to the RIA, space. It's kind of an across the board, worldwide change, I suppose, or trend that's impacting the RIA space. But in the RIA business, in the financial services industry, I would say it's having an outsized role because of how much data this business relies upon, right? And then another couple of micro trends we're seeing here is really a desire for simplification and efficiency. There's never been more choices and options available in this marketplace, and yet that can bring about a lot of confusion, and it can confuse even me. And so I think that there is this undergirding desire for more simplification and efficiency. And then, the other one that we're seeing real time here at Mutual Group is this advisor versus business owner conundrum, as I like to call it. But running an RIA or any business for that matter takes a lot of time and attention, just like being an advisor requires time and attention. And so, identify goals, pursue some of those goals, and inevitably this question of trade-offs comes up. And it's a trade-off of growth, profits, time. And that conundrum is becoming more and more real for advisors in an increasingly and changing environment.
Yeah, and I know you have solutions for both, opening up your own RIA or plugging in, very much like a wirehouse financial advisor really values their time and they're willing to sacrifice maybe a little bit of autonomy, to be able to just kind of go to work and take care of their clients and go home at the end of the day. I think a lot of people that are taking a look at the RIA space right now, they're saying, hey, I am more than willing to give up a small amount of my payout to not worry about compliance, to not worry about tech stack, to not worry about billing and some of these things. And then there's people on the other side that say, hey, I want to pick my custodian, my chassis, and then I want to add every single aftermarket part on there that I can, everything kind of off of that Michael Kitces technology chart, and I want to control every single piece of the process. And there's not a right or wrong answer by any means, but it's a conversation that's coming up quite a bit. And a lot of times when I talk with financial advisors, they have a lot of misconceptions in their head around the RIA space in general, whether it's plugging in or running their own RIA. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you hear when you're speaking with advisors about the RIA space?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them to your
There
point.
are.
Um, couple that we hear is you can't make it as a small advisor in this industry, and I think the reality is you can. I know you're gonna probably ask me about that a little bit more later, but hey, it's very low barriers to entry, as they say, right, in the old strategy world.
Yeah.
So it's a great business to get into, and it's not hard to get started. So I would definitely shoo away that misconception. I think this there is a lot of short-term thinking though that's kind of coming about. Uh, you know, like, hey, I've got to get while the getting's good. And fear not. I've been in this business, as you referenced, Corey, for almost 20 years now, or actually over 20 years. Gosh, um, I was hearing that 15 years ago, right? So, and the valuations and sort of the stock market, everything's continued to go up. Now, granted, we're all things don't always go up forever, but the reality is you know this short-term thinking is kind of a misconception that just plays into the psyche of advisors and business operators. And so that's something we hear a lot about, or I think a lot about. Another misconception is that investors don't need an advisor anymore because of AI. We've actually been speaking to our advisors about this, and turns out what they're experiencing is that investors are just coming to meetings way more informed than ever before. They are now preparing for that annual review meeting by using AI, and they are coming with newfound questions. Maybe they're actually doing research at night and sending their advisor questions. But the interesting thing is they're going to their advisor though with those questions. They need an advisor still, even though this plethora of information is now has been unleashed with AI. And then, probably the one that we love to hear the most about, misconceptions is that technology makes everything easier. um, Technology is great, but I always joke it doesn't come out of the box and work.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't work, meaning it doesn't integrate and talk to all the other things that you're going to use. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest one that we all think we hear quite a bit. So we have to kind of, help, kind of bring sort of some reality to that kind of situation a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, back to your AI thing. I went to ChatGPT the other day. I was just curious. I'm 40 years old now, and I said, "Hey, I'm making X amount of money per year. I have X amount of money saved up, like assuming inflation, assuming this growth. How much do I need to have in order to, keep up with inflation and have this quality of lifestyle over,
Right.
when I'm 60 years old?" And the answer was incredible, like the detail and everything that it gave. But there was just something about it that had like nothing behind it. Like, I feel like at least in our generation, like people are just always going to want to have that person and that emotion. And any financial advisor knows they're more of a they're half asset manager, half psychologist anyway. And
Yeah.
that's not gonna GPT is never gonna take that over. Well,
That's right. Yeah, it's an amazing there's a podcaster I listen to pretty regularly, and he talks a lot about this. We as humans we're intended to be in relationship, right? You
yeah,
can't sort of fight that. There are some societal sort of norms that have been formed over the last, 10, 15 years as a result of all this technology and social media, but at the end of the day, successful people, we are meant to be in relationship, and therefore, the advisor investor kind of dynamic is one that in my mind is here to stay and is kind of part of a natural need that we as humans have. So yeah, I couldn't agree more that the answers are somewhat they're great answers, very informative, but I'm not sure that they're going to sort of check the box in terms of meeting my needs. So
Yeah, for sure. The biggest misconception and the one that I get all the time, and I can't believe I get this. I strongly believe it's told by, leadership of some of the organizations that have a really vested interest in keeping people in their seat. But it's hey, I have a decent amount of brokerage business. I want to continue to have brokerage business. I
yep.
want to catch the largest net possible of advisors that are retiring. And so I need access to both brokerage and fee-based. The RIA side isn't a fit for me because you need to be 100% fee-based. And I mean, that's where your firm really comes in. So can you debunk that for us and talk a little bit about how Mutual Group helps there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is certainly a fair concern that any advisor is going to have that concern if they're coming out of, I'll call it what is more of a traditional, independent broker dealer, a wirehouse environment, et cetera, right? There's broker dealer business that is important to make sure that it's accounted for when considering a move to the RIA space. And often I always say it's not so much about the revenue, although yeah, that could be very important and significant for an advisor who is considering a move, but probably more so, it's about the relationship that they have with that customer. We see and have seen over and over again, advisors have sold, an investor perhaps a commissionable product and it's still a very good product for them and their needs. And they can't merely walk away from that and pretend as if they didn't sell that to them and that doesn't exist in their portfolio. So fortunately, to your point, Corey, we have solutions for this, right? Our broker dealer, Mutual Securities, it's been around since 1982. Back in the late 90s is actually when we first kind of started to develop a compliance program for independent RIAs where they had duly registered or hybrid advisors that still needed to have their securities licenses with a broker dealer. It was about middle of the 2000s or 2004 or 5 when this moniker friendly broker dealer kind of came into existence. And that friendly broker dealer program that I kind of refer to was something that we started back then or kind of it originated at the end of the 90s. And we've really kind of capitalized on just that focus of catering to independent RIAs who need a commissionable solution. So that friendly broker dealer program is alive and well today, and it's one of two ways that an advisor can think of, or we can help solve for an advisor to move from that kind of broker dealer world to the RIA world while also maintaining a relationship with investors that they have.
Awesome. So just to be clear, a financial advisor opens up their own RIA or they plug into an already existing RIA, and then they can use you still as a broker dealer to serve their clients' brokerage business and continue to get the trails from that business as well.
Yeah, that's right. And there's really we have two, we call them broker dealer solutions. We really have two flavors for that. Of course, one that I we talked about, which is the friendly broker dealer program. We call it hybrid, and it's primarily for those who are still actually seeking to write new business and perhaps place certain types of products with customers because it's an appropriate, recommendation for that investor. So if you're still active, that's the friendly broker dealer, kind of solution that we provide. And then we've also developed a very innovative fee-based solution for RIAs who may not be actively writing any new business, but simply have a book of, legacy commissionable products that they want to advise on. And that program, we call it Evolve, and it's really unique in that it allows that advisor to no longer be registered with the broker dealer, but yet still have the ability to service and advise investors holding, broker dealer products.
That's amazing. So, I mean, there's not a lot of financial advisors out there that know that, I don't think. I think there's people that would really like to be fee only. They still have this legacy Series 7 brokerage business that can be a significant revenue stream still. They still
Right.
want to, serve on that business. And it's probably really holding them back from accomplishing what they want to accomplish right now, where they can easily go the RIA route, drop their Series 7, get rid of some of the red tape that comes along with that, that a lot of people are trying to escape, but,
Yeah.
still be able to, get compensated and serve on that legacy brokerage business. So, I mean, that's amazing. Talk about
Yeah.
a misconception that needs to be educated on. That's awesome.
Yeah, and again, to your point, there is an added layer of red tape that comes by being what we would call a hybrid RIA, right? And it's not necessarily something that you should be scared of, but it's just something that we think it's important to understand what the dynamics of that are. Now, the friendly broker dealer kind of moniker, just to kind of demystify that a bit, we got that label, and I shouldn't say we, but really there's several firms that sort of primarily orient themselves towards the RIA industry and deliver this type of capability. But that comes because we kind of intentionally decided not to take a percent of the revenue stream that was flowing through the registered investment advisor. Okay, so the adage goes, we don't take an override on your fee-based business. We only take an override on your commissionable business. We're friendlier, evidently, because of that. So, but it really does come down to the fact that we have this is a specialty kind of program and focus for us. It's not an exception. It is the thrust of that program. We've built and designed a compliance kind of universe around that. And clearly there's going to be a level of collaboration that is necessary to be put in place with that RIA who chooses to be hybrid. And we think it still works very well for those whom it makes sense, but that Evolve program is increasingly becoming more attractive, certainly with the proliferation of fee-based everything, whether it's insurance products, alternative investment products, etc. That is definitely the trend, and so less and less of a need for the broker dealer to be in your life is sort of the expression we hear quite frequently.
Hey, breaking in real quick. I really hope you're enjoying this episode and finding my YouTube channel of value. If you're a high-performing financial advisor that can use somebody as a guide or a resource to explore all your transition options out there in the marketplace, I'm a non-biased, independent transition consultant that can help make this process so much easier for you. And another plus, it costs absolutely nothing to work with me. If you want to have a conversation, please feel free to text, call, email, DM me. My contact information is all over this episode, and I'll let you get back to it. Do you have any specific examples of like ease of doing business that advisors have gained by either dropping their Series 7 totally or allowing you to, handle their Series 7 business and then dropping their Series 7? Like, do you have any specific examples of, friction that's lost or things that advisors gain?
Well, I think certainly everything, as I alluded to earlier in my remarks about trends, there are trade-offs, right? And certainly one of the trade-offs or one of the gains that an advisor would pick up is simply time. Um, there are so many choices and options for how to, run your business, what technologies to deploy into your practice. Uh, do you really want to now have to obligate yourself to, the compliance department of a broker dealer, right? So it's simply a time saver for one, right? The other thing is, I think when you start to think about more of a long-term view of growing a registered investment advisory business, hate to say it, but compliance is going to become a bigger and bigger part of that. It's just the business that we're in, right? And so, inevitably, that RIA compliance team is going to have to allocate again some of their time to collaborating with the broker dealer that they are affiliated where there's an affiliation. So those are just some of the what I would call the time distractions. And then really, I think it's marginal at best in some of the other areas, right? And there's not a tremendous amount of economic gain or loss attributable to being registered or not being registered. But I think one of the key features of the RIA industry is that you're really untethering yourself from the world of a broker dealer that is kind of limiting some of your potential and the possibilities. And so I think that's where some of the biggest misnomers are found. Because when you enter into the RIA space, you have so much choice available to you. There are now newfound ways to build clients and to work with clients. You are not subject to broker dealer kind of rules and product fees type kind of restrictions. And so I think some of that freedom that gets unleashed with an advisor who goes into the RIA space is simply unmatched. And so you almost want to count it as lost opportunities, if
Sure.
you will.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the insight. So on top of these broker dealer silos, you also have a corporate RIA that if a financial advisor isn't quite ready to dive into, their own RIA, you can handle the compliance, the billing, the tech integration, for a pretty fair price as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? And also, you know, who's a good fit for plugging in versus starting their own? I talk with all sorts of people. Some people say running an RIA is incredibly easy. There's other people running RIAs that are looking to join an organization like yours because they feel like, the responsibility is too much and they just want to get back to serving clients again and growing their business. And people's kind of opinions are all over the map. So, you know,
Yeah.
who's a good fit, who's not?
Yeah, let me start with maybe the last part of your question, which is it is easy to start and form one of these RIAs. I don't want there to be any misconceptions around that. Again, as I've mentioned earlier, you don't even need a college degree and you need no capital to get one of these things going. Now, having said that, there's that conundrum. Do you want to run a business or be an advisor? Okay. And as you think about the long term, uh, there's inevitably going to be more and more tension placed around some of these factors, i.e., growth. margin and your time, candidly. So that's where our advisor platform really comes into the mix, right? We do have a registered investment advisor platform. It's built on, pure RIA kind of custodial environment, pure RIA technology, and it's intended for advisors who simply say, I need a partner to help me simplify the complex that can I can be a part of a community as opposed to feeling like I'm on an island. And I can get the support, I can get the resources, and I can outsource many of the things that I would otherwise have to take on my own, right? And it's not, there's no science behind that, meaning it's not an easy math problem. There is a math problem that you can do to make that decision. But once again, it's not there's no, right, wrong, or easy, not easy decision here. It is a very personal decision for an advisor. I think a lot of it comes down to what are their goals? Where are they heading with this business? But yeah, mutual advisors, our advisory business, it's really intended for advisors who first and foremost are looking for a partner. They want to grow. Our average advisory team is about $130 million under management. They're actively seeking to grow those businesses. They want to leverage sort of the personalized technology stack that they're putting together with our support. They rely on our compliance program to be able to help get the things done that they want to be able to get done to deliver that kind of uniquely personalized client experience to investors that are their target market, that are their ideal clients. So that's really the thesis behind it, our advisory platform. And we're just thrilled to be able to be a partner to these teams that we work with, and we absolutely love getting out of bed and doing it every day, candidly.
I love it. I mean, when I talk with financial advisors, there are certain questions that I could ask them along the way, which one is the right way. But sometimes it's just as clear as day, like who's built to build their own RIA. And
Yeah,
like someone that's like a true tinkerer, that's constantly researching the best breed technologies and resources on everything. They make decisions really, really quickly. They're tinkerers. They're the type of people that like would like to like build their, cabinets to like redo their kitchen. They're hands-on. And like I said in the beginning of the podcast, like they love the idea of having a blank canvas with a custodian and then building every single thing on top of that and like building something that like really resonates with their client experience. And then
yeah,
there's others that, maybe that's just a little bit of a leap too far. I think the really cool thing about a mutual or just a lot of RIA solutions in general, you can make a move over to somebody's corporate RIA, learn about the RIA space for a couple years, and then if either the juice isn't worth the squeeze from a payout to what you're getting back standpoint, or things don't come to fruition, it's pretty easy to go out there and launch your own RIA at this time. So I love the idea that once you're at the R in your when you're in the RIA world, as long as you're with the same custodian, you're never really making a huge transition again. So it's an
that's right.
awesome opportunity to kind of get a free layup to in the RIA side, moving into someone's corporate RIA, learning the ropes. Many people might wind up staying there for the rest of their life, but if you disagree with that, it's real easy to make a change.
Yeah, I just, that is sort of the one, I'll call it paradigm shift when folks are thinking about let's call it a move from broker-dealer land to RIA land. You are absolutely right. Once you kind of pick your custodial platform, whether you're with our RIA or another RIA, you're out of the ACAT business and game, right? That wholesale transition of your accounts, you don't have to worry about that again. So that's a big plus for any advisor who's thinking about this. I also would just sort of mention, yeah, we the paradigm shift that takes place with at least how we operate and serve advisors is, we're a service provider to advisors. We call it an advisor affiliation program. They can leave at any time. There's no contract. There's no handcuffs. And what that forces us to do is deliver value and a good product every day. And quite frankly, we say this up front. Hey, if that is not working for you, and again, advisors are going to go through different, evolutions in their business as well. We want and would like nothing more than to be in a long-term, partnership with advisors. But we certainly recognize that things can change, and we make it very easy. So if they should change and they need to change and they want to change, but we get up every day out of bed, and we have to make sure we're delivering value. Otherwise, advisors aren't going to pay us for the services that we're providing. So.
I love it. I've had great experiences with y'all in the past, and I think you've taken pretty much every reason for an advisor to say no to going RIA that's interested in RIA, off the table. So I think you've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, Corey, to that point, the long-term outlook is really important for an advisor to keep in mind. These are big decisions, right? Whenever somebody is moving their business, it's their livelihood, and quite frankly, it's becoming an increasingly valuable asset. So, you know, thinking about going RIA, while I see it clearly, and it's a non-negotiable, meaning it's why wouldn't you do it? I would really encourage advisors to definitely take a long-term outlook on that. And don't think of the short term, whether it's you're running away from something, whether there's some dollars that are being put in front of you, but truly think long term, and make sure there's a real clear thesis for why to go this route. I do believe, though, that when landing in the RIA industry in general, the opportunities and choices at that point in time are just simply limitless, whether it's products, whether it's technology, whether it's service partnerships that could be established from firms like Mutual, that have a broker-dealer solution or even a advisor platform solution, to compliance consultants, outsourced technology partners, et cetera. And then, but the other key thing I would just simply highlight for any advisor is, investors. They have, without a doubt, they have demonstrated that they will follow you and that they are looking for transparency and they are looking for advice, but in a fiduciary manner. And the fee transparency alone, especially with the amount of information that's available to them through these great technologies like AI, has really taken down some of the opaqueness that existed in our industry before in these kind of legacy broker-dealer models and constructs.
I love it. Aaron, you have a ton of experience. So thank you for coming on and sharing your insight. I think we debunked about four things that I know advisors have felt really strongly about and have been told over the years. I really, really appreciate the time. I think you have a great offering, and I really hope you'll come back on at some point for another update.
Well, thanks, Corey. Yeah, it's been fun. I'm no pro at doing these things, so I apologize if some of my answers weren't spot on, but or a little too long. But this has been great. It's a fun discussion we love having, and candidly, the future is bright for advisors in this industry. I'm so excited to just be in a position where I can talk to folks and help them, regardless of where they end up. But certainly thank you for having me on as a guest today. It's been a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Corey.